Lexi Baker, I am so honored that you took time to come and share with us on this platform today. When I first thought of the platform I wanted to run with on this journey, Women of Strength, you were one of the first people that came to mind. You and your family have created incredible success, and I just wanted to share your story with people out there. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, I grew up here in Vegas, and I have amazing parents. They really created an incredible family for me to be raised in, had awesome standards for us in our life, and taught us to love the Lord, taught us to just make great decisions. Of course, growing up, you do your thing, right?
Yes.
But I was going to college, and I kind of had a plan. I knew what I wanted to do with my life. And then I started thinking a little differently because I was introduced to some people that had, some really successful entrepreneurs that had just a different life than I'd seen. My dad had owned his own business since he was 19 years old. All of my other families owned their own businesses. So I was always very excited about that. But the path that I was choosing before I met my now husband, it wasn't that. It wasn't a path of entrepreneurship. It was actually, I wanted to get involved in politics and all those types of things, which is kind of funny now. But I really did. I was very interested in that, but I never had thought very long term as far as like I wanted to get married and I wanted to have children and what that would entail and how much involvement that would be. And so as my husband and I, which Trevor, we met in California, and he's awesome. We met pretty young. We got married at 21 years old. And his parents were those successful entrepreneurs that had just really created some awesome results in their life. The family that I saw that they had, the time they had with their children. And I was excited about that. I was excited about the life that they had. And basically we're like, okay, can you teach us how to do what you did?
Right.
Because we wanted to live that life. And yes, entrepreneurship can be challenging. Absolutely. But we decided to go on that journey pretty young, like 19, 20 years old. And we were able to, we moved to California, started there, got married, and started that journey. That was scary for me.
Yeah.
I was excited about it because I saw the results that other people had created in their life, and not just financially, but really just every other aspect of their life and the relationships they had, the impact they were making in their community, and all those different things. Because the path that I had chosen before I decided to go down the entrepreneurial path is honestly the reason I wanted to do politics, and it wasn't like domestic politics. I wanted to do international politics. Because for whatever reason at that time, I saw, at 18, because you think you have it all figured out at that time.
Right. Yes.
I saw that, I could travel. That seemed exciting.
Yeah.
And that I wanted to make an impact in people's lives. And I didn't just want to, now there's nothing wrong with somebody who just has their life and has their family and doesn't necessarily do anything bigger than that. I think everybody has a different calling in their life.
Right.
But for me, I just never felt like I wanted to do that. And I always felt like there was something more. But like I said, I thought that that's what I wanted to do, was in politics. But then I saw that I could create and have those great things by being an entrepreneur, by actually eventually mentoring people. And all of those things came together. But like I said, it was scary because I was that person growing up where I was very shy.
Yeah.
Like, I knew your husband, Bill.
Yes.
Bill and I went to high school together.
Yes.
We were like, I wouldn't say we were good friends, but mostly that's just because I was very quiet.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was good friends with somebody he dated for a long time in high school, and it's kind of crazy. But I was just very shy. But being an entrepreneur, owning a business, really caused me to have to stretch myself, which was so good.
Yeah.
It was such an incredible thing. But I don't think if it weren't for the fact that I had an amazing mom. Like my mom.
Yes.
She's incredible. Like, she's amazing. She and my mother-in-law are some of the people that, and I'm going to totally get emotional, but that inspire me so much in my life, just for the families they've created, what they do, who they stand for, what they've had to overcome in their life to be able to be where they are today. And if it weren't for them, and honestly, my faith, then I know that just the different things that we had to go through. And it wasn't even that the building of a business was hard.
Right.
It's just that we live on planet Earth.
Yes.
And life happens.
Life happens.
So yeah, we were able to actually build a pretty successful business. I'm 41 now, so maybe it's been 16 years. I don't know. But yes, I know. I'm 40.
When did that happen? Oh my gosh.
I know. I remember being young thinking 40 is going to be so old.
Well, and when I first met you and Trevor, that was right when Bill and I got engaged.
Yeah.
And already at that point, you and Trevor had been married for a couple of years already. And at that point, you had already built a level of success. And so I was introduced. I love that Trevor says this. People don't know what they want until they know what they can have. And they don't know what they can have until you make them aware of what's available.
Yeah.
And so, yes, there's many different ways of having success, but most people view success through the financial aspect.
Yeah.
And you guys came into our life and you're like, hey, you need to look at it in every area of your life.
Totally.
What are your values? Do you know why your values are your values? Are you living your life according to that?
Yeah.
And I had never seen anyone so intentional with their decisions and just the heart that you have for, hey, this is not just for us. Let's see how we can help other people to see that in a direct and indirect way. And to be exposed to you and to your family, not just on your side, but Trevor's side as well, has been one of the most impactful things in my life. And for sure, it was one of the best environments that my husband and I could start our marriage in and even our journey in parenting.
Yeah.
And still to this day, you are the voice in my head on when I think of many different things. And so, yes, you personally mentored me for 5 years, but also indirectly over a decade.
Right.
So there's a history there, and just you are a well of knowledge and just the epitome of grace. And
thank you.
You're just an all-around authentic person who truly lives her life this way, and that this is possible.
You're right. Totally.
So
yeah, and I think that's one thing that because we built a business in the direct sales industry, and we built a business partnered with the Amway Corporation and supported with worldwide dream builders. There's some people that think there's no way people really do that. And there for me, I'm you know what? The reason I pursued that was just like you said, because it would allow me to live my life through my values, the things that were most important to me in my life, my faith and my family, and actually be able to be healthy. And I personally, we didn't want to have lots of debt and things like that. And just being able to be fiscally responsible. And I think for me, all of that comes down to my driving force, and my reason for everything is honestly because I have a faith in Jesus Christ, and hopefully you're comfortable with me sharing that.
Yes.
But yes,
absolutely.
But because of that and everything, all of my values come from that.
Yes.
All of my values come from the Bible. And so it was very simple for me to learn to be, I guess, authentic. And you have to overcome perfectionism and all those things that definitely I've had challenges with for a long time. But I think over the last, I don't know, however many years, just knowing that whose I am and who I am, and I was created for a purpose, and there is a reason for everything in my life, has allowed me to walk through different circumstances in my life where maybe it would have been harder, and didn't mean they weren't challenging, but I could always go back to that foundation of truth, of what it is that the one thing I feel like I've reminded myself of so many times in my life is I am not the master of the universe. And I'm very glad of that. But sometimes I try to be the master of the universe, because of course I'd want things to go my way. I'd want things to do that. But then, man, it just, rather than asking why things happen in our life, or why this is happening, or why things aren't happening as fast as I want them to be, or whatever it is, I'm you know what? I just know there's a greater plan, and I just have to stand back and trust.
Yep.
And it creates such peace, even when it comes to parenting. And I know that, we kind of started together a little bit in that journey of homeschooling and things years ago. But even with that, I've had so many people, so we have 4 children, and they're awesome. Our daughters are 11. Our 2 sons are 7 and 3. They're so much fun. They're such a blessing in our life, and we hope to maybe have more. It'd be exciting. But we've chosen to homeschool them ever since the beginning. And there's so many people shared with me, they're kind of concerned, or like, oh my gosh, like, how do you know that you're going to teach them the right thing? How do you know you're going to do all that kind of stuff? I'm like, you know what, for me, I just know that I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to do my best. And I figure that God's going to take care of the rest.
That's right. Wow.
Because there's nothing else you can do besides doing that.
Absolutely. Well, and so many facets of that that you just shared. The fact that you guys have been able to put yourselves in a position where you have more choices, whereas people kind of just have to figure out what they can do with what they've got.
Yeah.
And then, of course, on the subject of homeschooling, same thing. Like, we loved our COVID year. We were sort of forced into that.
Totally.
But there was that fear, a tremendous fear. And I still have that fear. I have a couple of kids who are currently in their Christian elementary school. And now we're going to take the reins going into the middle school age for so many different reasons.
Right.
But just being around people helps, and being immersed in that community gives you more of a greater sense of what you're doing. And of course, your faith plays into that. And then one part that you were talking about as far as having a deep faith is we're living in a crazy world and a crazy time. And I hear so many people, especially the older generation, saying, I'm so worried for you guys. And it's kind of like a doom and gloom type of a mindset.
Totally.
And I'm like, something we can't control what's going on. God has a greater plan. And usually things are not happening to us. They're happening for us.
Yeah.
And who knows who's being impacted right now in this younger generation, raised in this scenario, and what kind of leaders can they be, as long as we are intentional with raising them, how we're raising them, in the decisions that we make. And so I love that you absolutely are just a woman of strength, who your strength is the source of that really does come from your faith. And it has impacted me tremendously. So what are some of the things that you guys have been able to do as far as impact not just the people that you mentor, but in your community, some of the things you've been able to experience around the world?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things I remember, so as a kid, I remember that I think I was in like 6th grade. I went on just like a little mission trip to Mexico and like Tijuana or something, stayed in a tent, and we were able to build a house for this family. And but I just remember how much that impacted me so much. So the one thing that's been really important to me is being able to take our kids different places around the world, and not just on like a fun vacation, which, okay, that's great. And as they're getting older, it opens up so many more opportunities to do more of that. But just to let them know, like, okay, hey, we're not just living in our own community. Yes, there's people that are in need here, but it helps you change your perspective on the world. Helps you be so much more grateful for what you have. For even if, like you're saying, this doom and gloom of all these different things, I'm like, that just happens to be because, in my opinion, because we live in America, that we think that. Right. It doesn't mean that there aren't things going how maybe we'd prefer them not to go. But when you look around the world, we still live in such an incredible place. Yes. We still have so many amazing opportunities, so many amazing freedoms in our life because we live here. And that's one of the reasons why I think it's such a responsibility, and why Trevor and I, even though maybe we've created something for ourselves that allows us to take care of our family well, we want to be able to teach other people how to do similar things, how to mentor them in life and mentor them in a build of a business, and be able to be kind of that great representation in our community of, things like we're, involved in different, actually I saw I think it was one of the first interviews you did with, oh my goodness, I should know her name.
Rosie Harris.
Rosie, thank you. I told Gina, actually, I was like, you know what? I thought it was so funny when you did that. I'm like, oh, because she was a little bit newer working for them.
Yes. And
we've been supporting them for years now. Even when they just had like one home, and now they have several homes for women, that are getting out of sex trafficking and all those different things. And, but it was cool to see that. So supporting them, and even just our church, we're pretty involved in our church, and they're actually really close to you guys. But just being able to see that life change in people, because it all starts with how somebody thinks, right? And if somebody doesn't change their thought process, which that's one of the reasons why I think that for me, my faith was so important, because it really was the foundation of how I thought. And if we don't change the way that we think, then somebody can't change the way that they live. They can't change how they raise their families. They can't change how they're impacting their community and their marriages and all those different things. And so that's one of the things that I think that I love now. We just decided to take the things that are the most important to us and really focus on those. And right now, honestly, at this time in our life, most of my time is spent being a wife, being a mom, mentoring people in life and in business. And then, yes, being involved in other things, those are incredible blessings. But just because of the stage of life that we're at, especially with our younger kids, my number one ministry is my children. Because we can sow into them. We can raise up incredible young men and young women that can stand up for what's right, can stand up for their beliefs and not getting swayed by the winds of just opinions out there, but of really what has been proven, and learn how to critically think and all those different things. That's one of the things I love about homeschooling, is just seeing how your kids start to grow and change and ask questions, and they're okay. It's okay if they ask questions. It's okay if they question me, and really being able to explain all those things to them.
And it's knowing that your values are being sown into them, and they're not getting the seeds of other people who you don't know what their real values are. Yes,
and hey, I appreciate teachers. I think they're incredible.
Amazing.
I think they're so amazing, but still, it's my children. And we have the opportunity and the ability to invest into them every single day. Yes, because of homeschool, but I think even if somebody doesn't homeschool, you can be such an incredible influence in your kid's life.
That's true. Yes, because there's many people who, for whatever reason, maybe they can't financially or physically or in their time, they can't homeschool their kids, but they want to, or maybe they're even just afraid of taking on that responsibility.
Totally.
Okay, but you are still the most powerful and primary influencer in their life. So don't worry about what you think should be going on at school. If you have them go to school, just make sure you're very present in their life at home. Because you're their number one teacher. I think one of the biggest things too, and it was from a Robert Kiyosaki book and audio that we had listened to, was the importance of the responsibility of being able to take part in the free enterprise system. We have that ability to own businesses and responsibility to create wealth for our families, not to be about us, for feeding yourself, but more about just the ability to then take care of future generations, in the future, and take care of the ones that are still alive, right?
Totally.
And so when it comes to that, because there's many different ways to build a business, whether it's through your way or any other way. There's many people watching this that probably own their own businesses as well. But because you've been able to create results in your life, how are you guys, you and Trevor, intentional with raising your children when it comes to that business aspect? Are you?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I read, and I don't remember where it's from, but I read it in the last few years. And I loved what the person was talking about, because there's so many times where you have there's kind of three different aspects, right? There's people that have their family and they have a mission in their life, okay? Or they have their family and they have they have a mission kind of with their family, but it's a little their family is their mission, right? Or they become a family on a mission.
Okay.
And so the thing that I love is showing our kids that, you can create, no matter what kind of business you start, right? Obviously, we have our experience, so we're going to share with them what we know, right? But no matter what business you start, you can give back to the community, whether that's providing jobs, whether it's whatever that is. And so our goal is to help them understand that it doesn't necessarily need to be that you go out and you have to get a job, although you probably have to start somewhere, right? And they're like, no, we just want to be a business owner. I'm like, you might have to have a job sometime.
You gotta know what it's like.
You gotta start somewhere, even if it's just mowing the lawn for me, whatever it is. But we have make sure that they see so many aspects of us building a business for ourselves. And they see, even if we just go down the street, like there's a coffee shop that we like to go to. And it's great. And every so often, like there was a time where they kept having circulating people that would be at the cashier place. And they'd be like, Mom, how come it's a new person every time? And I would just say, well, I don't know exactly, but I had talked to the owner, and she's like, we're having such a hard time finding people that are good, hard workers, right? So even just talking about those aspects of, hey, hard work and entrepreneurship and giving back to the community through that, being able to show them even just how to be, I think we were talking before, even just teaching them simple, basic things about finances that we're not learned growing up anymore. So my goal with our kids is to just have them like launch into the world and be prepared. Right? To be prepared and to hopefully want to start a business for themselves because of what it can do for themselves and their family and their community, and take advantage of, honestly, the free enterprise system that they live in this country.
That's right.
Because there's many places around the world that's not an option.
Yeah.
Right. And so having them be excited about that, there's so many things around town now. And there's one that we're probably going to do this fall that's like a kids entrepreneurship thing.
Nice.
And it's really cool. And there's like a little fair, and they get to like whatever they want to sell or build or whatever.
Love that.
And kind of like a farmer's market idea, right?
Right.
And they have a booth, and they get to sell that, and every aspect of that, because hands-on stuff is so much better. Yes. And it's funny because they start to realize like, oh, even just something as simple. We did this a little while ago. And they're like, oh, Mom, I made this much money. I'm like, no, you didn't. I'm like, this is how much money came in. This is how much money it cost Mom to do all these things. That's so right. Now this is how much is left, and you got like $20 or something. And I'm like, what?
But they're learning.
Yeah, but they're learning
what it looks like to. Yeah, that's the early stages of entrepreneurship.
Totally.
Right.
And I just love, like, the one thing that I always want to make sure that they understand is just because that maybe we don't necessarily struggle financially, I don't want them to ever enter into the world and not realize what it takes to do that. For them to understand the value of money, for them to understand the value of hard work, and for them to actually practice those things, so that they don't, enter into the world as this entitled child.
Exactly.
Has no clue what's going on in the world.
Right, because it's what I've heard it before. People who have founded and started the original company, they're the ones that had to walk through the fire. We're forced through the fire of struggle and failure and the adversity to overcome that. And it's who you become through the process. Yeah. Right. And then usually we've seen examples where parents or grandparents passed on their businesses to children who were raised in an environment where they didn't really experience struggle. Yeah. And so therefore the care and the actual, I guess,
the ownership of it.
The ownership. There's just something that happens to you. So I feel like when you see people who own a business and they're going to pass it on to their children, being intentional about making sure their children understand this is what had to be done in order for you to have this. So don't take it for granted.
Right. I mean, I really think that has everything to play into. It's like, if you don't understand your history, it's like they always tell us, like, you're most likely going to repeat the mistakes, right? So that's why, I mean, even when it comes into, teaching them a history of our country or teaching them a history of our family or all those different things, I think the more somebody understands those things, the more they feel tied to them, the more pride and ownership they have in them. Yeah. I remember Trevor and I went to, last year in the summer, we went to Italy. Or actually, maybe it was 2 years ago. Anyways, 2 years ago, we went to Italy. And we were going around Florence, and there was a particular cathedral that was built. And I was just learning about it. I love history. Yeah. So Trevor would prefer we take pictures and move on. And I like to read everything. So sometimes he'll be like, I'll take a picture of the plaque, and you can read it later.
I can see him
doing it. Yes. But he let me read some of them. He would if I really cared. But anyways, but I just remember, so in the city of Florence, this particular cathedral, and every different thing that I was learning about, it took them 400, 500 years to build things, right? And then when we went to Rome, there was a guy that we were in an Uber with, and my father-in-law happened to be with us on the trip. And he asked the guy, he's like, "Oh, are you Italian?" And he goes, "I am Roman." But the difference was because the reason why they identify as Roman or from Florence or different things like that is because they understand the history. Because they understand what was fought for. They understand how things were founded. They understand all of those things. So then they have so much pride and ownership in the buildings that were built, in how things are done, in their culture, all that kind of stuff. And so even with our kids, whether it's how the journey that Trevor and I are on as an entrepreneur, and even just our early years of marriage and all the different people and how grateful we are for different people that have sowed into our life and all the founding of our country, all those different things, I want them to understand that. So then they value it in the future. So I think when people don't understand that, then that's when they take it for granted.
Well, and then just figuring out, design your life first. What do you want your life to look like? And then find people who live that way. You guys always spoke about this. And reverse engineer what it will take. And hopefully you'll find mentors that'll help you get to that, rather than just picking something because you think that's the next step.
Totally.
We have so many seasons of life where you either can figure it out right away, or it might take you a little bit of time to figure it out. But it doesn't have to be go to school, get a good education, get a good job, career, profession with good benefit.
Totally.
And then that's your life. And most people are fine with that. And then there's some people who feel stuck and they don't know that there's another way.
They don't know there's another way. They don't know there's another option. And even though they might see lots of things, especially now with like social media and stuff like that, so many other things out there. But one thing actually, Trevor will always tell people, he's like, there's a difference between some people will be like, "Oh, I know this person." He's like, "But do they know you?"
Right. Yes.
Right? Do you have people in your life that are willing to help you, that also know you and know your intimate situation and can help you on a day-to-day basis, instead of just, because there's great content out there, right? There's so many things you can watch and listen to and books you can read, and there's so many different things, but it's very rare, at least in my experience, to find people, like you said, that have the life, at least generally, that you want, and that can come and help you create those things and help you dive into the intimate things in your life and help you overcome those things and help and actually walk through those things with you.
Absolutely.
Because that's what's been, some of the people that we mentor in business and mentor in their life have become some of our greatest friends because of the depth of the relationship that's created, because they know that we're just there to help them.
Right.
We're there to help them get what they want. We're to help them have an incredible family if that's important to them. And they're so much more willing to be vulnerable about situations, share what their challenges are, their struggles are, because they don't have this. Even if they do, they get over it pretty quickly when they realize, like I always tell them, I'm like, "I don't care what you tell me, just so you know, I won't judge you." Right? I won't judge you. If you want to change, I will try to help you change. Right? Or at least I can't do it for you. You have to do the push-ups on your own.
Right.
I will guide you to either resources or help you with it as much as I can. But I think that it's like, yes, we will get in there if they're willing to be vulnerable and help people just, honestly, in my opinion, just become the greatest version of themselves.
Yes.
So that then they can actually do great things for their family, so they can build a successful business, whatever it is that's important to them. I know for me, I had to grow so much. I had to grow so much, like even just I know I've known you for a long time, but the fact that there's like cameras, that would have been like talking to one person that I didn't know when I first started on that journey as a business owner was so terrifying to me. So terrifying. Like I would be drenched in sweat, so scared. But when you know what you want in your life and you know the results that you want, bad enough, if you want it bad enough, you're willing to go through it.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yes. And I remember my husband telling me the stories like, Gina, you don't get it. Like when Lexi says she was shy, she was so shy. The fact that she could talk in front of like stadiums filled with thousands of people is a big deal. And that's because of personal growth. And that I know is a huge element of not only your life, but things that I implemented into my life.
Yeah.
And I told you, as we talked before, that I credit to being the part of the person I am today in large part because of being immersed in that environment and that intentionality. So, what do you do intentionally to grow yourself? What are the things that you do?
Well, I think the biggest thing comes down to input, right? So many times people tell me all the time, or you'll hear people say, right? Oh man, I really want to do this. I really want to change this. But the problem is they have so much negative going in their mind that it's hard. They're creating stumbling blocks in their life that they don't necessarily need.
Yeah.
Right? To create such stumbling blocks that you have to, like, it takes so much effort just to hurdle over those to even get to, let alone try to get to where you want to go. So for me, it's like, what do I read? What do I listen to? What do I watch? You know, even something the other day, somebody had asked me, they're like, hey, how do you not just get sucked into all the negative that's online? And do I have a social media account? Sure. Am I really on it and active a lot? No. But I said, I'm just so, like, I don't follow anybody on there. If they start posting things that I know is just taking my mind off track, I get rid of them. Doesn't mean that I couldn't look it up sometimes, sure. But I'm just very intentional about the input that I have in my life because it's all consuming. We don't realize how that, like, one little seed can spread so much. And you don't even, like, there's been times where I've listened to or read certain things, but especially, I usually don't read negative things. It's usually like listened to or heard or watched or whatever. But I don't even realize that very slowly it starts to, like, leak into my mindset. And I'm like, I could be snappier with my husband or snappier with my kids, or just, like, have a negative mindset. And my tendency prior to personal growth was to be that, like, kind of glass half empty person.
Yeah. Okay.
And so
I see that. It's hard for me to see that because you are so glass half full.
I think it's just because it was like, this is how I think about it. And something else I read years ago helped me think about it in a positive way. Because I would look at things, and instead of being like, oh, I'm just a critical person, I'd say, no, I actually see things and I see how they can be done correctly. Right. And so that was important to me. I want things done right, and I want things done a certain way. But that has a tendency for some people to lead down that negative path and that critical path of that glass half empty person. I mean, I remember my mom, when I was in high school, came to me and she goes, Lexi, if you don't stop being critical of people, you're going to have no friends in your life. My mom, you know, my mom's like not like that.
I know, for her to say that's a big,
it must have been a big deal. I was quiet but critical, which is terrible. But it just took personal growth. It took, you know, the one thing that I think really helped a lot is because I actually listened to something about this the other day, just a couple days ago, was that there's no difference between being miserable. Like, there's statistically no difference in your brain between being miserable and being self-conscious, meaning thinking about yourself all the time.
Okay.
Right? Which seems funny, but what's the cure for that is taking your eyes off yourself and serving people.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much.
And that is what helped me so much, is because when you see other people's life circumstances, you become so much more grateful.
Oh yeah.
That's one of the, like I was talking about, taking our kids in other places around the world, and not just, like, you know, Europe, which is great. And there are challenging places there too, but other places around the world, because you become so much more grateful.
Yeah.
You're grateful even in your struggles. You're grateful because, you know what, I figure, you know what, there's a purpose in this. I don't know what it is, whether it's our journey building our business, the different things that we've had to go through to have children, different things that have happened with my brothers when when Trevor and I were first married, so many different things. I'm like, you know what, I don't understand why. I don't understand why this is happening, but I know there's a purpose for it. And I'm either going to, like, you have a choice. Somebody can get bitter through their circumstances, or they can get better.
Right.
And I had to choose to get better and look at it. And you know what? I can't change it. Rather than being like, why? I'm going to look and I'm going to serve people. I'm going to serve my family. I'm going to serve my God, and I'm going to move forward.
Well, I love that. And when you were talking about that, it was funny. It brought me back to when I first started in the pageant journey, and thinking of what kind of a platform. And I knew that it was going to put me in a position to have a lot of focus on me that I'm not so used to.
Yeah.
And immediately it was like, okay, it's to be a title holder or to be a Mrs. America. It's not about one person or a sash and a crown. I mean, all of us are a little bit of a Mrs. America. Like, we're part of this country. Like, we all embody a little bit of what she is, right? And so that's where we wanted to take the focus onto other women in the community, not just locally, statewide, but who could we talk to nationally? Who could we talk to globally?
Right.
And hear their stories. And that's one of my favorite parts about meeting with people, is hearing their stories, because there's inspiration there. There's hope given in those situations where people can take little nuggets and apply it to their life in what other way it can grow them. But that just felt natural to me. Let's make this about people.
Yeah.
And I love that. And so part of that was born from the Women of Strength when I first heard that in Worldwide.
Yeah.
So on that subject,
Yes.
for you, because you're surrounded by women of strength, who would you want to share about who is a woman of strength in your life?
I think a lot of times when you see a woman of strength, it is hard to define them, in my opinion, because we think so often, especially in today's culture, they're talking about strong women, meaning someone that can sometimes come across as abrasive and trying to get their own way. And I'm just like, I'm headstrong and determined, which is a great aspect. But I think it's also learning that, you know what, you can be feminine. You can give into those innate things that are within you, and being willing to sometimes having grace, being silent, making decisions, even if people are not supportive of those decisions, even if they're not popular, being kind to somebody, even when they're not kind to you. There's so many different aspects where I think many times people would look at those as those aren't strength. But it takes so much more strength to do those than to give into our emotions. Than to give into the emotions of like, oh, I'm just going to tell him off. I'm going to do all these things.
Takes a lot to bite your tongue.
To bite your tongue, because that's internal strength. That's internal strength of, you know what, when you have things going on in your family, you're going to be the one that's going to undergird your husband. You're going to be the one that, even if you're not feeling great, you're going to take care of your kids every single day. You're going to be the one that is going to, even if you have all kinds of chaos going on in your life, it doesn't mean that it's not going on, but you have a friend of yours that something is happening in their life, you're going to go and still love on them and serve them. And I mean, that's a lot of things, but I think there's so many women in my life that I've seen do that. There's so many women, whether that's Trevor's mom, Lexi Baker, whether that's my mom. My mom is a person that constantly serves people. There's so many people. One that is now kind of like a mentor, but a grandmother figure as well. Her name is Georgia Lee Pereira. She's amazing. She's in her 70s now. And I have just seen her serve people, even when her 30-year-old son had passed away the night before. Of a totally random heart problem when he was sleeping. And she still continued. It didn't mean she didn't mourn. It didn't mean she didn't go through those things, but she continued to do what she needed to do for her family, for her other children, for the people that she was responsible to, because she knew it wasn't just about her. So, I mean, that's just a few people.
That example right there, that takes great strength to go through something significant like that. And to still be able to take your eyes off yourself and have so much love to still be able to go and love on other people. And it's an internal strength. Yes.
Totally.
Yeah. It's not women who are trying to be like the guys.
No.
But there's so many examples I know that I'm thinking of too. And I'm like, oh.
I mean, I know so many different people. It's like,
it's just different ways.
Different ways. And, I mean, I have different people in my family, or the wife of the pastor of our church, and just so many different people that I've seen out there in society that usually they're not necessarily the ones that are they're not loud. Yeah. I mean, they might be boisterous in their personality, but they're not the ones that most people would be like, oh, I know this person. They might be, but for me, I loved it explained this way, is that many times a woman of strength is a woman that the world can't explain. And I'm excited about raising my daughters to be that way.
Absolutely. Well, if there's anything that any advice or any maybe quote or scripture you can impart on anyone who's watching that you think would resonate, what would that be?
And I'm going to totally space the exact scripture, but I will tell you. Just it's in 2 Corinthians, and it might come to me, but it's one of my favorite ones, and it says, "Because we have such a hope, we are very bold." And for me, that would be exactly why I can have strength in everything that I do. And it doesn't mean that I don't in the moment, that I don't have feelings of weakness or insecurities or anything like that, but I can always go back to where I actually get my hope from, where I get my strength from, and I know that I'm not alone.
I love that.
So,
Lexi, thank you so much for
You're
today.
welcome.
You are an amazing person, and I know that this will definitely reach so many people. So thank you for your
Thanks.
time.
Love you.
I love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.